Om Shri Sai Ram. We will start today's session with three Omkars.
Loving Sairams and a very, very blessed evening on this auspicious Sunday, and happy that we are still part of the November month, which is 95th birthday month, that we are all still in a celebration mode. On this very, very blessed and auspicious birthday month evening, we are very privileged and blessed to have father and son duo, Santana uncle, our own very own Santana uncle, and brother Vijay Santhanam as well today, who will be sharing beautiful experiences and some of the lessons learned at the Lotus Feet. But before we listen in, let's, in fact, both of them don't need any introduction. But since we have a global audience most of the time, for those who may be abroad and kind of logging in, for their benefit, let me get this opportunity to introduce Santanam uncle and also brother Vijay Santhanam. First to go, Santanam uncle is an ardent devotee of Bhagwan for more than 3 decades, and he resides in Mumbai, the main city, the host city for this session. Uncle actually came to Bhagwan's fold in early 1980s, and he had a very distinguished professional career and also held a position of President of Human Resources, HR, in the SR Group, one of the key business groups in India, in his last corporate assignment. Post his retirement from the industry, he ran his own consulting firm in Mumbai, and currently he is the trustee of Sri Sathya Sai Trust Maharashtra, and is one of the strong pillars of Bhagwan's mission, especially at Dharmakshetra, which is Bhagwan's abode in Mumbai. So welcome Santanam uncle on this auspicious evening. Brother Vijay Santhanam, son of Santanam uncle, is an alumnus of Bhagwan's Institute at Prashanthi Nilayam. He joined Sri Sathya Sai Higher Secondary School at Parthi in 1992 and went on to do his graduation and post-graduation from Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning in the year 1999. Brother Vijay was blessed to receive the Sri Sathya Sai All-Rounder Medal from divine hands, directly from Bhagwan's hands in the year 1998. He was also blessed to accompany Bhagwan to Kodaikanal twice, once in 1994 and another in 1996. Brother Vijay is a senior banker by profession and currently serves as managing director at the investment bank in Barclays. He is also a member of the management council of Sri Sathya Sai Trust Maharashtra, Mumbai. So welcome Brother Vijay on this auspicious evening. And today's, unlike normal sessions that we have, where there's a monologue and the guest speaker actually shares his experiences on a continuous non-stop basis. Today we thought that let's have a conversation style with them and have a very, very wonderful informal chat which can take us to a very different realms of 1980s and 1990s filled with beautiful experiences of Bhagwan. It's a blessed family, and we thought this is the best way to have a conversation and interaction with both father and son duo. So without much ado, let me kickstart with the first question, which all of us are very keen to know. Maybe this is to Santanam uncle. How do you kind of got introduced to Bhagwan, or rather how Bhagwan walked into your life? If you can share some of your thoughts and experiences on this.
Om Shri Sai Ram. The year 1983, I was working abroad. I was on a short holiday in Mumbai. I happened to be a member of the Lions Club. Swami happened to be a guest of honor in one of the Lions Club meeting in South Mumbai. I had the invitation that the first time I met Bhagwan. The Bhagwan said to the Lions that time, you're all doing a lot of human services, but this is the time you all should have a spiritual advancement, okay? This is what I heard about Bhagwan. After that, I used to think about Bhagwan, God. Then year came 1989. Okay, that is that completely turnaround. I resigned my job working in IBM, came back to India late in 1988. Swami came to Dharmakshetra somewhere in March 1989. Vijay's mother and her mother, they were ardent devotees of Bhagwan. Right from morning 6 o'clock, she was after my blood. Let's go and have a Bhagwan darshan. I said, no, who am I? I don't want to listen to anybody. And plus, the March was very hot that year. No, I'm not ready. I can say it is a fortunately, unfortunately, I cannot say. My elder brother who was staying in Vashi, he walked in. He said that I am come to see Bhagwan's darshan in Dharmakshetra. Then I was forced to go. I tell you, I went, I reached about half an hour before Bhagwan to start his darshan. He was very surprised. After later on, I realized I was very lucky. I got an excellent seat to sit and see Bhagwan directly from Jalan Mandap. During the course of discussion, Bhagwan compared the well to the shoe. He said, the shoe which should be neither smaller or bigger than the size of the wearer of the shoe. It somehow didn't hit me because I had a lot of attachment for wealth those days. Okay. That is the way I started. Then the year end, we decided let's go to Bangalore. From Bangalore, let's have Baba Darshan. That means who resisted to come for the Baba Darshan, some attachments started. We left Bangalore on a Diwali day morning at 7 o'clock, got into the taxi. The taxi driver said, you are too late. This time Bhagwan would have given a darshan, would have gone back. Try your luck. If you are lucky, you may come back. So we landed around 9:45. We took a complete look at the Prashanthi Nilayam. It was very pleasant surprise to us. Bhagwan came back within 10 minutes for another darshan. That's the way the whole thing started, the relation with the Bhagwan.
Fantastic. So I think there is a very beautiful lesson for us that, about the money part, how much we should have adequate wealth. That is what is needed for us, not more, not less.
Yeah.
So beautiful lesson, in fact, coming at a beautiful time. And, after having this wonderful entry of Bhagwan in your life, was there any incident that kept you attracted and attached to Swami after that? What made you to continue to, be with Bhagwan after that?
I tell you the two things. After I came back from Prashanthi Nilayam, I started going regularly to Dharmakshetra. Those days, Mr. Natani, he is no more. He was looking after the Dharmakshetra activities on a full-time basis. He encouraged me that I should spend the weekend, evening doing some seva and help him with the administrative work. That's the way I started working Dharmakshetra. I really started loving those sevas as well as the administrative work. Okay. Then the 1994 is another turning point in my life. Vijay's mother, she was in Prashanthi Nilayam for seva. She came back with some health problem. Finally, the doctor has said she's suffering from the heart ailment. The situation was very serious. Then she came out of the hospital, basically in and out of the hospital. Somewhere in 1995, the end of 1995, she was in the none of the hospital. The doctors gave up the hope. He said she just cannot survive. We used to keep on Swami's photo near her bed. Okay. The doctors said, if Baba wishes, he may save you, otherwise it's difficult. They said, Vijay was studying in Whitefield. They said, please send a message to him, let him come. So getting Vijay from Whitefield is not an easy thing. The warden said that he has to go to Swami to take his permission. Both of them traveled to Parthi. Swami permitted him to travel to Bombay. He sent a vibhuti through him with the specific instructions. Go there, give the vibhuti to Mummy and come back to college next day. He landed in Mumbai in the night around 10 o'clock. I picked him up from the airport. The doctors gave us the hope. They stopped giving him medicine, everything. This vibhuti was administered around 11:30 in the night to her. From 12:30 to 4:30, 5 o'clock, she was vomiting. At 5 o'clock, she was absolutely in peace. Doctors were surprised, what's happening? We cannot believe that somebody such in a worse condition can revive. That has attracted me and more faith in Bhagwan. That's started that way.
That's brilliant. I think this is something which very much important for all of us to know, that one can do anything, and he is beyond time and space. And this is the greatest boon that all of us as Sai devotees have, as Bhagwan, as a eternal companion for us. So I'm just shifting a gear a bit. I think Brother Vijay, since you mentioned about Parthi and Vrindavan and taking Bhagwan's permission to get him, maybe Brother Vijay, I think it's a very blessed opportunity all of us have to be his students. So it's a great privilege. It's a blessing, maybe of many lives that we have got. So maybe can you throw some light on how was your journey as a student, and how was a life with Swami during that student phase when you were there with him in both Parthi and Vrindavan?
Sairam everyone, and thank you for having us in the session today. I think at the outset, my disclaimer is, if I hadn't gone and joined Swami's school and college back in '92, I would have been a very different person today. That I can guarantee you. I think the best boon that Bhagwan gave my parents was to send me to Parthi to that extent. I would have probably been a spoiled brat in Mumbai, and life did change. So I'll probably take it in phases. I spent 7 years there from '92 to '99. So I think the first 2 years about being a student was very different, right? Any child who's born and brought up in Bombay, pampered by parents, you get into a hostel and you'll know that well, right? Our hostel is very basic. I think the way it just changed your perspective of life at that time. Think about how your hostel life is very simple. You start valuing very basic things of life, right? The discipline, getting up at 5 in the morning, you're right awake and you're active till 10 in the night. You start valuing basic things. And one thing I always remember, right? You always take things for granted at home. Your food, your water, your bedding, you're suddenly on the floor, you're sharing a room with 10 people. But these are lessons that Swami teaches you. You don't realize it. These are not things that you go and listen and discourse, but it is just your lifestyle changes. You get used to a lot of things. Today, you put us anywhere, probably we will adjust very well, irrespective of where we are in life today. I think that training at a younger phase is very helpful. That made a big difference. I'll give you a simple part, right? A bucket of water to have a bath, it's taken for granted in Mumbai city. I joined college in '92. My room was on the 3rd floor. Parthi used to be scorching hot that time. And we had to walk down 3 floors to get 1 bucket of water to have a bath. You suddenly start valuing that 1 bucket of water to have bath so much. But then everything is forgotten, because then you go have darshan, you have conversations with Swami, and all those things that, once a week your parents call you and their conversations are, how are you, how's the food? Nobody's cribbing, nobody's complaining about bad, that the food isn't good enough or anything. You adjust to all that because you enjoy living with Swami. And I think that was a big transformation in terms of lifestyle, in terms of what you really need to live life. And it came early. I'm fortunate that it came to me very early in my life. I think what also then, as time passed, one was to just getting adjusted to what Swami expected, what you need in your life, what your priorities are. And then came 1994. And one fine day I received a message saying, and this was the first time ever, traditionally the way Swami, so if people who don't know how Swami, the typical calendar year, Swami spent till say March in Puttaparthi, between January to March. And somewhere in early April, Swami went for a month to Kodai and then returned to Vrindavan, spent a few months and then came back to Parthi. So by end of March, Swami would typically take an entourage of 25 to 30 students. And traditionally, it would always be that the senior students, typically the MBA batch, is the batch that would really get to Kodai with Swami. Because that is like 30 days of living with Swami in Swami's bungalow. You're eating, sleeping, getting up, everything with Swami, right? And then I got a message in end of March saying that for the first time ever, Swami is also going to take 10 to 12 boys from the school. And you are one of them. And Swami said, be ready to go. Very surprised, didn't expect it. And there it was. 2 years of a very different training in life. And then I got to see Swami really personally, because Kodai is some place where you live with Swami for 30 days. And when I say live, You are in the same bungalow. There are 30 boys in 3 rooms, Swami's room there. It's like in the night, all of you are trying to get as close. You're putting a pillow as close to Swami's door, hoping that Swami will open the door. You're having your meals with Swami. You've seen Swami, like if this is the table in which you're sitting, you've seen Swami stand here and see what you're eating, or telling Swami to serve you food. You can have a lot of funny incidents, right? Because you're staying in the same house. One is you have thousands and thousands of devotees sitting outside waiting for Swami, waiting to pray to their God. And here there are these 30 boys who are inside who have such proximity and such visibility of how a day with Swami is. So that was a very different phase, because you really learn how Swami can pamper people and also be very severe when things go wrong. So one is just observing Swami in terms of feeding you, sending you for a walk, giving you money and saying go for shopping. And then you see all the guests come in and all the dignitaries come in and them having conversations. So that was like 30 odd days of really seeing Swami very, very close and personally, which was a great experience. Anybody who's been to Kodai with Swami would tell you that. That was, even today, there are pictures of Swami that make, or there are videos where Swami went out for a picnic. That was the first time Swami took students out for a picnic. We went to the forest and they had to actually barricade the forest, and Swami came down through waterfalls, etc. And we had to lift Swami physically. Swami said, I want to pose. And there was a bark of a tree where we actually lifted Swami and made him sit. And there are photos of that even today that happened. So that was the first time a very grand kind of a picnic happened. So those are very, very fond and nice memories that I have. And that entire batch of students that went really, I think, cherished those moments. From there, I think, so these are the first 2-3 years. Very nice, very sweet memories. And I think then, and my father just mentioned, and I think then Swami said, probably this family is having it too easy. Let's change gears for a moment for my student days. And I think that's when in 94, when my mother fell ill, things changed. And that is where I think it was a very different phase of life for us at that time, right? We didn't expect it. We didn't see it coming. It was serious illness, as my father just mentioned. I got a call. It was sports meet. I remember I was a Brindavan student because I moved from Parthi to Brindavan for my first year of my undergraduation. We were in January. We were in the old hostel, as we call it. We were preparing for the sports meet. I made a call. I realized she's in hospital because they had not told me she's in the hospital. She was actually in the ICU and I didn't know that. And then because the doctor said what he said, they made a phone call saying it may be time come. So I went there. I flew back to Bombay, left the sports meet, came to Bombay. We obviously, as a family, we didn't know, because when I landed, there was a car waiting for me. I came and I saw my whole family waiting outside the hospital, and I didn't know what it was. So that has happened to her. So then we discovered what happened, how serious it was. It was a heart ailment, other organs were going down. And this was early 94. And between early 94 and mid of 94, she kept going in and out of hospitals. And ICU is typically known as, you spend time of 2 days, 3 days, 4 days in an ICU. In her case, we spent months in an ICU. So what we did there is my father used to spend time just sitting on a chair in the night. And it got to a state where one of the elders here in Bombay said, I'm going to Parthi. If you want to send a message to Swami, why don't you just write a letter or tell your son to write a letter? And we both wrote up a letter and we just sent it to Swami. I was in Bombay because again, I had flown back. I was literally every alternate month, I was flying back in and out. And then Swami sent word to that elder when the letter went in, saying, tell this boy to come to Parthi. And I was in Bombay. I flew back to Brindavan and I had to tell the hostel warden saying, and this is a very awkward moment, right? You're going and telling the warden of the hostel saying, I have got word from Swami that I should be coming to Parthi. And those who are students will understand what I'm saying, because typically the messages come through the warden or through the teachers. Now I'm going into the hostel and telling that Swami sent word that I should be coming to Parthi. I told the warden, I took a cab and I went to Parthi. And I remember because I was a Brindavan student going into Parthi. There were just some 2 other students. I went in the evening, morning, I went and sat there right in front in the mandir, and that's exactly what my father just narrated. He called me in, I had a letter in my hand. He asked what happened. I said, this is the condition. And that Vibhuti incident that he mentioned happened. And then there was this very gradual and very quick recovery that happened over the next, this was mid 94, 95 January, mid 95 going into 96. And she recovered well enough to actually come back home. And our family, my sister got married in 96, early 96. I remember I actually carried a card, the wedding card to Swami in Vrindavan, because I used to work in the stores in Vrindavan. We used to have the chance of going in, and Swami used to call just 4 or 5 of us and say that, get me some cloth, I have to distribute it. And that day I had the wedding card and I gave it to him. He was very happy. And after that, he came to Bombay in 96. And my mother came in, and I'm telling you all this sequentially because there's a reason why I'm telling you all this, because things changed again. And in 96, when he came here, I was here, it was in May, and both of them went up to Satyadeep near Anand Kutir, and the same elder who carried the letter actually tried to introduce my mother to Swami, saying, Swami, she was unwell. So Swami said, stop. I know she was unwell. I know exactly what happened. I sent the prasadam. And everybody laughed. She took her Pad Namaskar at that time. And then she was fine. That was late 96. Now, the reason I'm telling you all this is, many a times we take Swami for granted, or you tend to, or Swami puts you in situations where he will put this screen in front of you where you think, sometimes you get into doubt saying, what is happening here? Because here, the sequence is as follows. Swami called me to Bharti. He sent the Vibhuti. We saw such a massive recovery. He then came to Bombay. She went. He acknowledged saying, I know what, here it is, take Namaskar. Told the elder, I know exactly who this person is, what has happened. Everything is fine. And then came, then it was 96, 97. I finished my BCom in Vrindavan. I went through to Parthi in early 98, starting my MBA. And then one fine day, I came for a holiday here to Bombay. That was summer of 98. And there were a lot of conversations, a lot of incidents that happened during that phase. And then in 98, when I was here, one fine day, all of a sudden, evening, she walked with me, and night she was breathless, and she passed. And we didn't expect that. Okay, we genuinely did not expect that at that time. Yes, in those 2-3 years, the way we look at it and we look back, 94, we had given up hope. My sister wasn't married. I was still in the middle of my studies. We weren't mentally ready for it. From 94 end right to up to 98, she saw through her daughter getting married, her son getting into an MBA, she being blessed with a granddaughter. All that happened. But when she went, it happened swiftly. We weren't ready for it, right? But it happened. And then we took it. And then came a day when I went back, after the ceremonies got over in June of 98, if I recollect that date, it was 3rd of June, 1998. I went back with permission from the warden. And I said, I just want to have darshan before I go to Parthi, because now I'm a Parthi student in MBA. So I go and I sit there in Vrindavan. And those of you who've been to Vrindavan would realize there's Trai, and the ground floor, there's a Jhula where Swami sits. It's a U-shaped building. And I was sitting right there in front. And that was day number 14 or 15 after your mother passes away. And then Swami asks me in front of everybody, saying, what happened? And I was scratching my head saying, why are you even asking me what happened? You know exactly, you know everything. You were and I just stood up. I said, heart attack. He smiled. I smiled. But come to think of it, there are times Swami has done this. He does this used to do this very, very often physically. He put this doubt saying, you did everything, and all of a sudden you're behaving as if you don't know anything, right? I laughed. I took Pad Namaskar and I just went back to Parthi and I started my day-to-day life. But a lesson for me, and I think even now I keep saying about that, right? And is that you think about this whole sequence, think about what happened, how the end came. And when we had a conversation, and at that time, one message came. I don't think my father even still knows about it. And in that conversation, Swami's message to us was, think about the situation as such. And the reason I say this is all of us typically pray and we start doubting whether there is a supreme power that will always help us, and why do bad things happen to people who pray, who are spiritual, who are doing the right things. My take on that is it doesn't matter. You're doing it for your own good. It's not a business where if you think you're going to do good, only good things will happen to you and bad things will never happen to you. It's not that. It is not transactional, right? The way you got to think about it is if we were not doing what we were doing, things could have been worse off. We wouldn't have been able to take what was coming our way. And we honestly and genuinely don't know what was in store for us. And I'll tell you why I'm telling you this, because the message he gave us, and we never thought about it that way, is this happened, but think about it in such a way. If your mother was alive and your father went before her, think about what she would have gone through or whether she would be able to take it. Now that message just hit us, because I don't think at that moment, or I don't think ever, even after that, even if Swami wouldn't have said that I would have ever thought about it that way. And I cannot imagine if something like that had happened then, what would have happened to her, or if she would have been able to take it, given how frail she was. So my only take personally, from this whole incident or what happened at that time is, at some point, as you spend time and as you think about it, and more so when as devotees, we sometimes, and everybody gets doubts in their mind, everybody questions it. Think about it this way: we do it, we get our own strengths, but beyond the point, don't expect that because we think what we are doing is right, we pray, or we are going down the spiritual path, or whatever it is, that it is transactional, that nothing will happen, you will never get tested. It will happen. Maybe I'll take a breather here, Siddharth, if you have any further questions.
No, I think very, very, very important message I think you spoke about. And as you mentioned this, my mind went past to that episode when normally Swami says that, and there are multiple times, a lot of previous speakers also have spoken about this part, that when a calamity strikes in the family, Swami is definitely benevolent and he's with us, but he also looks at our credit balance. So he looks at, and that's why very beautifully you mentioned about, we keep doing good. Doesn't matter whether good or bad happens to us, keep doing good so that our credit balance continues to go up. And tomorrow when calamity strikes, Bhagwan looks at that balance and actually ensures that when the time comes, all that good work that we have done comes to our rescue. And more so importantly, when, again, I'm going back to what Uncle said in the beginning, when you have God with us, absolutely, and he's the Kalpuruksh with us, and because of him, everything is, comfortable, and he takes care of everything. And the entire sequence that you beautifully mentioned about 94, 96, and 98, he ensures that the family stabilizes, sister is married, and also, you're getting into the MBA. So he ensures that all, and the preparation from the mind, right from 94 onwards, all of us knew that, there is a problem, and, this can happen anytime. So he prepares for that, he's, this is typical of Swami, that he prepares his devotees that, when time comes, be ready for it. And he gives that additional time for us to prepare for that event. And, we are, so that we are able to receive it better. I think because of Bhagwan's presence in our life, I think this is, beautiful times when Bhagwan actually steps in and takes care of us. I think there's no better example than what you mentioned, both the episodes. So, going back, I think moving beyond this episode, any specific experience that you got during your student days, or something which is very touching to your heart and which came as a wow, this is something which Bhagwan is teaching us, and this can be shared with others and we all can implement it. Any incident which touched your heart in the 7-year period that you were there?
I think from my perspective, just observing Swami, right? If people have observed Swami, Swami's attention to detail was so high. It's not funny. It is humanly impossible for you to be so meticulous in your work and having empathy on what the other people are thinking. And I'll give you a very small incident on this. There used to be, and again, some of us were more fortunate. All the student community would know Swami spoke, or Swami just gave you an opportunity to be part of something, and therefore your interactions with him physically were higher than the rest of us. And there used to be these sessions where, when you had a convocation drama that happened, and I was fortunate to be part of one of them. And at that stage, he used to call us literally every day for a period of 30, 40 days. It was so funny that I had come in actually to Bombay for a Diwali holiday. Typically some of us stayed back, some of us came home because Swami was still in Parthi. That year, mom was still not okay. I chose to come take the flight and come back. And then one day, I got a call from Shiv Shankar Sai in Parthi. This is the midst of the Diwali holiday. It was October, I still remember very clearly, saying, Swami has called you. He said, Swami has called me. I mean, like, who am I, right? I'm a student sitting in Bombay. What do you mean Swami has called me? So that call came at the morning at 10 o'clock. My father was in Dharmakshetra. I said, I got this call. I don't know what it means. I need a flight ticket. Put me on a flight. I put on a flight. That happened at 10 in the morning. I took, somehow by 4:30, darshan was over. If I remember, 5 o'clock, I was already in Parthi, sitting there in the darshan line. One of the professors came. Suddenly, I was part of 4 boys who were called in. And the story goes like, at that Diwali vacation, the planning for the convocation drama had already started. Swami was choosing people on who should be part of the drama for the convocation. My name came up and Swami said, okay, call him. Where was he? He was not there. So I was called back and I went back in. And then what happened is after that was there was a phase where we used to go in every single day. And some of these boys were, already doing some work every day. And so one of these days into the interview room, and people who've seen the interview room, it's 100 square feet room, Swami's chair in the corner. And, Swami gives you food, you're having convocation, you're practicing in front of Swami. Sometimes Swami is just having conversations generally with 4 or 5 and the teacher who's there. So it's basically, he gives you this opportunity to spend time with him. Right? So he spends time with you. But what happened on one of those days is some incident where Swami posed for some photos there. And suddenly what happened was these other 4 boys who were with me pulled out cameras. I didn't carry any specific camera or anything, but they always carried the camera and they started clicking photos and I didn't have that camera. I didn't know that those were cameras that Swami actually had given those boys specifically in the weeks that I wasn't there or I was home or whatever. And I was sitting in the corner. I didn't even think about it. I didn't feel it, nothing. I was just sitting tight. I was enjoying my moment there because there were just 6 people. There were thousands of devotees sitting outside for bhajan to start and Swami to walk out. And here we were 5 or 6 fortunate people who were sitting at Swami's feet. And so it did not even strike my mind, but it was an observation. And honestly, I can hand or not, I don't think I even felt that I should have taken a camera, that I didn't have the camera that time or whatever. And that day passed. Next day, come 4:30 or 5 o'clock, Swami called us in again and we went in again. And that little room is a small 100 square feet room which has 2 doors, one into another private interview room, a small little door with a curtain which led to Swami's kitchen. So basically Swami had his meal, Swami used to have his meal there, he used to come out from that curtain and come into the interview room. I was sitting right at the edge of the door and there was a curtain there and there was a nice little side table there. And we went in, we sat, it took 5 minutes for Swami to come. And then he came in, he moved the curtain and I could see there was a side table. It was a small little teapot. A camera was kept there, a small little camera. I think it's still behind in my drawer, right behind me, 5 feet behind me. I've just kept it there. He just picked it up and threw it at me. And I didn't know what to say. So he had kept it there 5 o'clock in the evening, next day. And he threw it, I just took it. And then he went back and sat and he said, yesterday, I realized that you did not have the camera. So today, and that time Swami was not staying in the main Prashanti Mandir. And in those days, Swami used to stay in Purnachandra auditorium opposite Yajur Mandir because Yajur Mandir came up after that. I realized you didn't have it. So today, when I came, I told them to get a camera for you. Now, think about it, right? In that entire work that Swami does, in Swami's busy day, thinking about me for keeping a camera there. It wasn't that I was ill or it was something which was really changing my life. But Swami's attention to detail, managing guests, thinking about people was at a different level. So that's a big learning for me from my student days.
I think excellent, because this is something even in management, the top always we are taught in management that we should have eye for detail or attention to detail. And Bhagwan is a great leader for all of us to kind of emulate through his actions. And as Swami himself says, my life is my message. So this is a beautiful episode. Thanks for sharing for all of us. And in fact, if I can add one line to this, these kind of attention to detail and the concern and care, which Swami shows actually comes from the bottom of his heart with full of love, because all of us know that Swami's love walking on 2 feet. We try to think from the head, but Bhagwan thinks from the heart. And that is where these kind of care and concern is so natural to him. And it's a great opportunity for us to emulate Swami as a role model in this kind of situation. So wonderful message for all of us to derive from. Maybe if I can shift a little bit ahead of time, post your passing out from the portals of our institute, how was your life going forward in the corporate world? Any episodes you would like to kind of narrate and share with us on Swami and Swami's message also, and how kind of you implemented that in that new life that you had outside Parthi?
So maybe rather than going outside Parthi, a very interesting part, and that's very close to me, close to my father, I'm aware about that, is there was this mid junction, right? I passed out MBA and he was alone at home. So Swami's message always was, and in every student's phase is, do I continue spending time in Parthi and do something and spend time physically with Swami? Do I go back home? I think in my case, I was personally clear because he was alone, I'm coming back. Mother had just passed. And Swami's message always was, go take care of your father. He said, okay, fine. So MBA got over. Swami went to Kodai, came back. I came to Bombay, went back. And then I remember this May of 1999, March, I finished my MBA. Results were out, or results were just coming in at that time. You have this phase when you finished your entire 7 years, you finished your post-graduation, you're no more a student, you got to make your choice. And then came the question of, what do I do? And this was a phase where, Swami also had this phase where he sent messages to the student community per se, or to specific set of people, where he wasn't actually talking to boys at that time. So the bhajan used to happen. There used to be this very cold shoulder that Swami was giving the entire student community that was there in May of 1999. There was a 200 or 150 of us who had stayed back or had come back to just, typically what happens is you finish your year, you finish your final year, you go back, spend 10-15 days, try and take Swami's blessings, and then go back home, find a job, or you tell Swami you want to stay back in Parthi and do something. So we went back, both of us went back, because I said, why don't you also come? And he and I went back to Vrindavan, and Swami was in this phase where you would have bhajan, you would have darshan. Swami would call us inside into Vrindavan, all the 150 of us, and Swami wouldn't speak. And typically every day Swami would give us discourse or speak. So for that cold shoulder period, Swami would just not speak to boys. So he would take the aarti, he would see everybody, not have a conversation. He would call a couple of elders in, make them speak, take aarti and go away. And this was, and the nervousness amongst us, the boys who had passed out, is saying, how do we even approach Swami to have a conversation? Because we can't walk away. If it means that we have to wait for months and years to get that blessing from Swami, or that word from Swami saying it's okay to go, or if you want to have that last one Path Namaskar, or have that word saying, we're leaving your portals, but bless us, kind of thing, right? And this was 22nd, this was the 19th of May, and he came because that was the first anniversary of her death. And he came in on the 19th and the 20th. And again, Swami was accepting some letters, not accepting letters from students, walking through. And that time we used to have this unique way of communicating with Swami. You stay in Vrindavan, you go to the Kadukudi post office and send a telegram to Swami. Because that all telegrams were, in those days, all telegrams used to get posted on Swami's table, at lunch or at dinner. So you write one line cryptic message and you send a message out there. So one way of communicating something which you really strongly believe is send telegrams to Swami. So this is hilarious, right? You're staying there, you're in the hostel, you're 50 meters away from Swami. You could give a letter, you could step up and have a conversation with Swami, but that there is this phase that you don't want to try and do that, because there is a treatment he's giving all of us and he's sending us a message. So you just shut up and listen to it. But because he had come, it was the first year, I sent a telegram in on the 20th, on the 20th morning, and he wasn't talking to anybody. And on the 20th, I was sitting in the inside room in Vrindavan, and you try and get a nook and corner so that when Swami is walking past, you can at least be close to him. And when he passed, he saw me. He wasn't talking to anybody for 15 days. He stopped and he asked, "Has your father come?" I said, "Yes, he's come." "Okay, I will see him tomorrow morning." I said, that was like a shock, because everybody around was like saying, "What happened here?" All of a sudden, when there was this, but I knew why it was, because there was a phase in my during a conversations with my father, and during when we both of us were there with him, when my mother, he and I were talking to Swami at one stage, suddenly in the middle of an interview, Swami just told him, saying, "I will take care of your son and your daughter." And he didn't know what it even meant at that time, right? Because that was the time her health was fine, my sister was married, everything was going well, and he made that statement and let it be, and he was fine. Swami said something, maybe it was like a blessing conversation, and it moved on. In 98, after she passed, and in October when he called us, he reminded him of that statement, saying, "I had told you in 96, I will take care of them." A statement that was made 2 years, which we thought was an innocuous statement made, maybe just passing as a blessing. The interpretation of that we got 2 years later in 98. And then when this incident happened on that day, I said, okay, this is probably the phase. So next morning, we sat, morning I sat in the corner. There used to be morning darshan, evening darshan. Morning he saw, I was standing there in the corner. He said, "Your father's here?" I said, "Yes, he's here." He said, "Okay." Then he said, "I will call you in the evening." I said, "Okay." So bhajan happened. He called both of us inside for an interview. And he said, "Your MBA is over." I said, "Yes." "So now you go back." I said, "Okay, I'll go back." So, think about it again. He's done so much for us as a family. And then he said, "What about your job?" And he asked him, "In Bombay, which companies are in Bombay?" So he was obviously not ready for the question. He was fumbling on the answers. He gave some medical, he gave a Pfizer, he gave some weird names, because he wasn't ready for that question coming from Swami on what is the landscape of corporate India in Bombay at this stage, right? So we didn't know where this conversation was going at all. And then he said, "You know what? The L&T CEO is outside. I'm going to speak to him for a job for you." And I said, "Wow, what happened here?" Right? Because I just came in to take, and suddenly what happened was Swami was planning my career. He said, and he said, "Do you have your biodata?" I said, "No, I don't have my biodata. I am here for darshan. I'm wearing my white shirt and my white pant with my 2 pairs of clothes, and both of us have come to have your blessings. I don't have a biodata." And that was already 5:36. He said, "Okay." We went, and then he said, "Tomorrow morning, keep your biodata ready." Now in Vrindavan in 99, it's not like the days like today, right? Where you have laptops and everything is available. I remember that night, even today, I took one of my classmates' help, who was very good at typing. We went to the general stores in Vrindavan. I used to work there. Ruchir sir was there. And I was not so good at writing my own CV at that time. Luckily he was head of HR. We went, we typed my CV on the store computer. It took us till 8:30 on that night. There was no printer there. And printers were not available that easily 22 years ago. There was one shop outside the gate. We ran, they were shutting. We pulled the shutters open. We said, "Don't shut the shop. Give me 2 CV. Print this and give it to us." We printed that CV, went in the night, and I kept the CV ready in the morning. Swami came and Swami passed by. The CV was in my hand. And then Aarti got over. Swami went inside, and crowd started getting up. And I got up also in Vrindavan, and suddenly the warden came out running, saying, "Where is that Bombay boy? Swami wants him in." So I went there and said, "What happened?" So Swami said, "Do you have your biodata with you?" Swami is asking for biodata. I said, "Yeah, take it." And he went in. I was waiting outside because I didn't know what is happening. After 5 minutes, I got called in alone. And Swami walked down the ramp from there and he said, "I've given your biodata to the L&T CEO to help you find a job." I said, "Wow." That gentleman was A. Ramakrishnan, who was the ex-CEO of L&T, who had come for Swami's darshan because they used to run a lot of projects. So net, it was effectively Swami was now placing me directly into a company. Now what? And this was first part. He said, okay, now you go to Bombay tomorrow and you wait for the interview call. This was the 22nd of May. So biodata happened between Swami and the CEO. Swami then spoke to me. He said, that CEO is there. And I went and met him for 30 seconds. He also didn't know what had hit him because Swami gave him a CV. What do the gentlemen do? He said, yes, Swami, I will do what I can do. He said, no, we'll be in touch. My office will be in touch with you. That was May of 1999. And then I came back to Bombay and I had to wait. And then beyond a point, it became May, June, July, 3 months, no word, nothing happening, all silence. I'm sitting at home. I can't do anything. I can't find a job. I can't speak to anybody because Swami told me, go to Bombay and wait. And he himself has taken my CV. He's spoken to somebody very senior. And then it transpires. And then I get a call from L&T saying, why don't you come and meet us in the Chennai office? So both of us went to Chennai. And then there was an interview. I got it. I got posted. They said, where do you want to be posted? You want to be posted in Bombay? I said, yes. And then the gentleman on the other side, who was a very senior person, then he tells me, saying that you're Vijay Santhanam. I said, yes, I'm Vijay Santhanam. He said, the reason I'm asking you this question is that and this is 1999, July, if I'm not mistaken, in Chennai, where he tells me that we do not have a corporate policy for hiring MBAs. We are an infrastructure company. We used to hire chartered accountants as accountants on our construction site. And suddenly we had this recommendation to hire you. So we had to actually write up an HR policy and a process to try and see how we could accommodate MBAs. That is the reason it took us 3.5 months to even call you in. So what had happened is that L&T per se, and even today, L&T today hires MBAs, not then. They had to write a full HR manual. They could not just call me for an interview. They had to call 10 to 12 people. They called 10 to 12 people, a bunch of MBAs and CAs. That was the first batch in L&T ECC Chennai that they called. And then I was made an offer letter. And I still remember my first salary was 11,300 rupees. I still have that appointment letter, monthly salary in the year 1999. And that letter came August 9th, the letter came. Next flight, both of us got. We went back to Parthi. Swami was staying in the Purnachandra auditorium. That time, the main mandir was shut because there was renovation going on. Bhajan and darshan used to happen in Purnachandra. So, and those of you who've seen Purnachandra, it is huge, right? Like each row is 100 people. So I went and sat near the bhajan boys with my appointment letter in my hand. And it had been 4 months. No, only thing I was doing in that 4 months was writing letters to Swami probably every 10 days or 11 days saying, I'm still here. Just remember me kind of situation. I'll be honest, I was 22, nervous, not knowing what happened. And there's this total period of silence that is there. And I was sitting with my appointment letter. Swami, maybe 10 meters away, straight walked to me saying, what happened? I said, I got a job. Here is the letter. And the reaction Swami gave to all those people at that time was like, I had actually won an Olympic medal, right? It was a job he fixed for me. It was a job and a policy that he changed for me. And the reaction he gave me was, I had done everything. I had done nothing. I was just sitting there for 4 months on the sofa, eating food and waiting for the interview to come. The job started and he did that. Even that was the 9th of August, 10th of August morning. Again, he called both of us into the room. And I'm telling you all this because when he took interest, sometimes it just beats you saying, why is he doing all this? Do I even deserve to get so much from him, right? And next day in the morning, he called me in, he called him in. And this was not an interview. This was after the interview, just before the bhajan started. Because I very distinctly remember when he was having these conversations, bhajan started outside. He called me in, then he opened the door again and Venu Srinivasan was sitting outside on the first pillar and he called him in. And he said, see, this boy got a job in L&T. You know A. Ramakrishnan? He gave him a job. I said, this was like Swami telling people that, here, I placed this boy in L&T. I'm very happy. So then he said, when are you joining? I said, I don't know. They've told me that I should join before the month end. So Swami went at the calendar. I remember that this was this white calendar with these big block dates. He picked up the page, the August page, he saw the dates. He pointed on the 23rd of August and he said, go join on this date on 23rd of August. I said, wow. Okay. So I took Namaskaram, came back to Bombay and I joined the job here. You know, you're saying, and because your question to me was what happened post in your ex-student days. I think for me, the most important part of this whole transition from student to coming back to corporate world was much, much more valuable than anything else. And you know, the other thing happened, and which most people will not believe. I got this job in L&T. I worked there for 1 year, and hand on heart, I did not enjoy the job. And that was because I was built for something else. My ambitions were different. It was a company that had accommodated something on somebody's request, and I wasn't enjoying it. And this was the biggest struggle. Think about it. Swami did so much. How do I, as a student, go back and tell Swami that it's not working out for me? It's like, you know, somebody giving you a gift and you saying, I don't like it. Very, very tough situation, right? But one thing I have learned is if you're honest, and that's why even now, if I don't like something, I call it out. If I think something not working, I will call it out. And at that time, with great courage, but that time I was much younger. I knew what this meant. It was something very valuable given to me. And I was really trembling. I took a week off and I used to write letters to Swami still. I think this is not working out. I'm not enjoying it. Do something, change this. This can't continue in the current state. I remember in August of 2000, I went back, I took a week off and I went and I wrote a letter and I was sitting there in the bhajan hall. And just before bhajan, then Swami used to call me out by my second name. Swami used to always say Santana. For some reason, he loved calling out that name rather than calling my first name. I said, how are you? I said, very good. I had the letter in my hand. I had already sent him letters. I just knelt up. I didn't say anything. I had not spoken physically. Only in the December past, one of the days I went, he asked me how I was. I took Path Namaskar. But I had never had a conversation with him around my job not working out or me not being happy. But I had written letters to him. I had a letter in the hand. I got up. I said, Swami. He said, you're not liking it. I said, no, I'm not liking it. He said, you want to find another job? I said, yeah. He said, okay, do one thing. See, one thing with Swami was gratitude was something Swami valued a lot from a perspective of, you know, people being very grateful for what they had and what people did for others. He again saw the calendar. If you see the bhajan hall, there's a clock on the left, there's a calendar hanging on the left. He said, when did you join? I said, I joined on August 23rd last year. And this was again mid of August or whatever, right? He said, don't resign before you finish 1 year. Finish 1 year, then go and speak to them. Let 1 year go. That will be a good way to do it. I was stunned because I didn't expect that reaction. I was so worried that Swami would not really, this reaction wouldn't be what it would be accommodated to the section saying, okay, go find another job. It's fine. You know, because the reaction always is you always have fear. Here you are, somebody to whom you pray, who's your God every day. He's given you something and you're returning it technically, right? But it was very different. He said, okay, finish 1 year, go speak to him. He will understand. I let 23rd August pass of 2000. I then went and met Mr. Ramakrishnan. He said, I fully understand, no problem. That was 23rd August. On the 25th of September, I found a new job in banking and started. And from then on, he's taken care of every phase of what we do and how we do, including my marriage. 2003, we were in Parthi. I went with my wedding card. He saw me, he came back. There were some professors sitting. Again, the same introduction saying, this boy, I made him work in Bombay. He lost his mother early in life, took the card, blessed us. So he basically took care of us from the day I joined in. It was like physically, one is Swami being with us, but Swami really physically taking care of every stage of life. I think that is something we as a family cherish a lot. So without going into what I did, I think though that whole transition phase from a student to getting me settled was very, very valuable to us. I'll probably take a pause if you have more questions.
In fact, this is a typically all students, all of us call Swami as Saima. And this is a real facet of a mother when Swami takes over as mother, and he actually takes care of every element of, even if you like or you don't like, Bhagwan gets into the detail and understands. And that one point which you mentioned about gratitude, yeah, this is something umpty number of times most of us have heard, that Swami used to say, ingratitude is a worst sin to do. So I think gratitude is other side. So obviously gratitude is the best thing that we should adopt. And when Swami is with us in all respects, and Swami is not confined anymore to 5 feet 3 inches, what we used to have earlier. Swami is all pervasive and he is available to us today also. So this is the lesson that we can derive, that, when Swami is with us and we offer ourselves to him, not just individual, but as you said, the entire family. And as you said, Swami is to call you as Santanam. Santanam captures the entire family, not just Vijay. So that's a beauty, that as a family, when we offer ourselves to Bhagwan, he becomes head of the family and he takes care of every minute detail in our life. And this facet of entire your journey within Parthi, Brindavan, and then eventually, Swami getting you placed and even getting you the next job, I think it completely proves that Bhagwan is the Sanatan Sarthi who is driving your chariot then and even now, and I'm sure it will going to be in future as well. So wonderful, Vijay. Uh, Maybe let me just change a tack, because Seva as a opportunity was Bhagwan's, very close to Bhagwan's heart. And in fact, that's why he names our organization also Satya Sai Seva organization. So Seva is something which is very, very close to his heart. And Seva is a beautiful way where we can, when Swami says, see Narayana in everybody and serve me in everybody. So it's a very beautiful, very nectarine way of, kind of serving Bhagwan. And it's beyond time and space. You can do it today, tomorrow, even in the past. And all of us have seen in Mumbai especially, and there are very many people who are epitomes of Seva in Dharmakshetra, very many people, and each one of them has been constantly inspiring us. And among all of these is, today we are fortunate that Uncle, you are with us, and we have always got that inspiration looking at you, that, you are beyond age. If I may say on behalf of all the youth in Dharmakshetra, you are beyond age. At your age, the way you, actively participate, and the way you, walk and talk with people, I think you're beyond age. I don't think so any of us will be able to match that energy at this age. So given this kind of opportunity of Seva that you have got, can you throw some light about, how was your journey as, offering a service or Seva at Bhagwan's lotus feet, especially at Dharmakshetra, which is the starting point of Bhagwan's mission? Everything began from Dharmakshetra, right? From Seva Dal to Bal Vikas to, first World Conference. So this is like a nerve center from where the entire Sai mission began. And, you got that opportunity to serve right there in the heart of Satya Sai mission. So can you share some experiences, some episodes on Seva?
Before I say anything about the Seva and Dharmakshetra, I want to take you back a little. During the interview with the Swami with Vijay in 1999, I expressed to Swami, I want to resign the job. I want to go on my own. Swami repeatedly kept asking me, "Tumko kya karne ka hai? Tumko kya karne ka hai?" Okay, that at one time came. I cannot ask any question. Simply, I told him I want to become HR consultant. तुम शुरू करो, तुम बहुत अच्छा करेंगे. Okay, this has happened the year 1999 in August. 2002 May I walked out of SR group. Okay, it has happened in the first week of May. I was just thinking I could set up what do you call HR training. Then came an offer. I started the HR practice. It went on. When I told Vijay, get married, he says, why I should get married? All the time you keep traveling as if we need a lot of money. Then believe me, in spite of my best efforts to give up, it went on the practice so well with Swami's grace up to September last year. Okay. That also I forcefully left the company and came out. Okay. During this time, I had plenty of time. Let's be very clear. When I done the HR practice, I was not involved on a full-time basis. I was always interested being a Seva. They are always interested. Dharmakshetra gave an offer. Okay. The reason is that there a lot of work can be done. People have a pick and choose. I have nothing to pick and choose. Any Seva, even if it has to be cleaned up place, I'm ready for that. Okay. That is the way I started in Dharmakshetra. In the process, there I remember with late Mr. Nadrani, both of us got a serious firing from one of our seniors because we had done something knowingly that he will not accept. But we wanted that should happen to Dharmakshetra. That is the way the Seva started. Secondly, in Dharmakshetra, I find you do any Seva in an organized manner, no trust member will object. They always encourage. Okay. We started first housekeeping, we started. Then we serving food on festival days, we started, all food started. Then came, I think, the year 2000, I don't remember, when Swami gave a call for the Narayan Seva, regular Narayan Seva. That opportunity was given to me to run that one. That is the way I was totally involved in the Narayan Seva. We started as a Narayan Seva as a monthly. Okay. Then when Swami gave a call, we went into weekly mode, cooking for almost 1,000 people on weekly basis. There are a lot of youngsters in Dharmakshetra, some of them from the Samadhis. I tell you, the level of commitment those young boys have, they are the living example for our organization. Okay. I will never like to lose them in Dharmakshetra. One thing, this has to be done when they do, I have no idea. What is the age group? The age group is 18 to 24 or 25. Okay. We have to learn from them the commitment what they have. Even today also, when they left at 4:30, I given them some job, everything is done. Okay. Then very often we talk about Seva, Seva, not that I am doing Seva. Let me be very clear on that. Okay. I will take 2-3 examples for that. Let's take the recent relief work we ran for COVID. Okay. It happened on the April 5th, sitting in the evening having a coffee with Vijay. I was reading some message. I told Vijay, why not restart something? Every organization is doing it. We thought, we discussed, almost took 2-3 hours to find out whether we'll be able to get the food grains or not. I went to the trustees. Trustee says, why not? Initially, we decided we will arrange to give food grains for 3,000 families. One. Now, later on, we realized getting a food grains is not so easy. Here I must say, it is not that I only do the Seva and Dharmakshetra. Let me mention Mr. Pradap Paniyar. He is the one who organized me the total sourcing of the food grains on the logistics. Okay, with him. There are 8 boys working from morning 8 o'clock, night 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, packing everything. There are outsiders who are willing to carry the food grains for delivery wherever. They went up to even the districts. They went and delivered and came back. The 3,000 become 10,000, 15,000, finally ended 20,000 plus. Don't ask me, I will not call it that we have done it. Okay, we are only in the front, Bhagwan is running that. Because it is not human, it is not possible, because one distribution, the police has warned that you should not do any distribution in Dharmakshetra. Okay. When the lorry is leaving Dharmakshetra, there are 20-30 people standing in the gate asking for a food. Okay. Every situation we manage. Then came the month of May. All of a sudden, Nimit calls up one day asking, how about doing Narayan Seva and Dharmakshetra Day? Dharmakshetra Day, normally we used to do Narayan Seva covering 3,000 to 4,000 people, but this year we had our own issues. This year, okay, we'll do it. We started with 500 people on the May 12th. Okay. We were to do up to May end. There was a heavy demand. We continued with up to the month of October. Then there was again a suggestion from the trustees, why not we make the Narayan Seva as our daily activities. Okay. Effective 1st November, we made it to 300 people. Honestly, I tell you, I don't feel tired end of the day. Let us be very clear on that. Don't ask me for where I get the energy. That comes from him. Okay. And we are all enjoying it. There are boys, there are occasions we are left to 2-3 people. We are in a position to carry on. Basically, I believe, I don't think that any of us should feel that I am doing it, that we are doing it. No. Okay. I believe we should take up Swami's work with all sincerity, remain focused and committed. Leave the balance to him. He will guide and ensure success. That's what I believe in Seva and Dharmakshetra. And there's a lot of work left. We want more volunteers. Okay. Then we talk about Seva. I will take a little away from Narayan Seva or food grains. Let's take to now, when I say that he will do it, there's the example I want to quote. Let's talk about Shantiti. Okay. Swami statue is with us for almost a year. Okay. February, the trust discussed, we say, yes, we should go into the Savana. Somewhere end of February, 22nd of February, to be very specific, that was the last auspicious day. So we moved Swami statue to a particular place with whatever the puja required. Around March 8th, we decided the tenders and everything. The work started and the work stopped on the March 24th because of COVID lockdown. I also was not going to Dharmakshetra from 24th March to 5th of April. Then I started going because we started the food distribution. We restarted the work on May 6th. At that time, the work was extremely limited, creating a platform for Bhagwan's statue, nothing beyond that. Then we thought, if possible, let's go into the looking at the flooring. Now we have gone to the 5th stage, 6th stage, okay? The front floor, the work is all happening, okay? We are there because we have to follow certain process, but he is running it. Whatever he wants to get it done. End of the day, because after all, Swami is doing it, the way we see Shanti is something totally different. Now, this encourages, we should now go further because Dharmakshetra is 53 years old structure. That time we need to upgrade so that the devotees enjoy. This is the way, so I keep enjoying the Seva. It is not that I am doing it, Swami is behind, what is going on. That's that.
I think if I may add, I think introduction we mentioned that your last corporate assignment was President HR in SR Group. But if I may, I'm just getting inspiration from Swami himself. Swami used to have a pun on words, and SR is Sai Ram. So SR alphabets is Sai Ram, and you continue to inspire a lot of youngsters even today, like an HR president or HR head or CHRO of SR Group, Sai Ram Group in Dharmakshetra, and you are reporting to Universal Chairman. So if I can, I was inspired the way you were saying that so many youngsters are working and, they have been constantly kind of inspiring you also. So that's a very beautiful positive energy, which is flowing from you to youngsters back to you. And, both of you are feeding on that. And that's only possible when the divine energy is there. So very, very beautiful, the way you explained the entire Seva opportunity and the way it has been. Maybe before I, kind of move to the last part of the session, any message on Seva which from Swami which really touched your heart, which you felt, no, this is something is my life mission?
See, if you touch Swami, emphasize on Seva, it generally really always brought something to me. First, I liked doing Seva. Swami always talked about Seva, service to human being. Okay, that is always in the back of my mind. So I look for an opportunity whenever it comes. I would like to do the Seva. That's the way it is.
Wow, that's very nice. Very simple, straightforward to do it. And I think, as you also mentioned, whatever that came to you, you began straight away without thinking, without analyzing, just from the heart. So that's an important message for all of us, that Seva comes from the heart, and whatever opportunity get anywhere, we should, take it up. So very grateful to you, Uncle. And one last part, I think to both of you, maybe you can say any key learnings that you have received. Maybe Vijay, you want to take it up first. Any key learnings that you want to kind of sum up, for all of us, which we can carry home?
I think from my perspective, it's always been simple, like the whole conversation. It's about being grateful, have gratitude, and keep your life very, very simple. That's what I've learned. Without getting into too much detail or too much of philosophy, very simple, gratitude and simplicity.
Amazing. So any experience you would like to narrate post Mahasamadhi? During your last 8-9 years, you would have come across something which you felt, wow, this is Bhagwan's doing.
No, I'll tell you, just as an extension of what my father was just saying, right? It's not that a miracle occurred or whatever. This whole effort that he was talking about right now, the work that's happened in the last 8-9 months, I think it's an eye-opener for us because, and I was involved with him, it was an eye-opener to the fact that if work needs to get done, if something needs to get done, it will happen. Even if it is very large proportions, you got to start, and his grace flows. And I think that is more in action in terms of what we saw, in terms of resources coming in terms of people coming up. I just think about it this way. COVID situation, you and I are not able to go to work. We are all working from home. Work is stopped in Dharmakshetra. We are trying to do a massive civil work in Shantidip. You have no vendors. Everybody has gone to UP, to Bihar, to their villages in Maharashtra. We were able to find people. When we didn't have a vendor, I can give you, there was simple things. You wanted people on gold leafing. We couldn't find a vendor. Somebody walks in one day saying, do you want a vendor for gold leafing? We didn't ask. We didn't know he was involved. He comes and makes an offer. Honestly, there was a time when we did not have resources. Somebody walks in and says, I want to contribute. Only some of us knew how bad the situation was at that time. And the sum that came at that time was large enough to take care of us for 1 month. So these things happen. You have to start, you have to close your eyes, be sincere at the effort, and move on. That's it for me.
Absolutely brilliant. I think and as you mentioned about people automatically getting available, and that's how Swami kind of works through many people. I just, my mind flew back to 2010, 2009, I think, when last Bhagwan came to Dharmakshetra, and I got a chance to kind of work there, and kind of be part of the entire organization of the entire event. And I remember when we went to kind of clean Bhagwan's room, and we wanted few things here and there, we went to the shops outside, and we just asked people, we want this, and they immediately looked, oh, you came from Sai Baba Center. That's how they asked the shopkeepers outside. Oh, Sai Baba Center. I said, yes, we want broom, this, that, a lot of things. We had a list. None of them charged us, and what they said was even more important. This is our contribution to Sai mission. Hamara contribution Sai Baba ke liye. That is something we completely bowled over. And Swami ties so many people which we don't even know. Means Swami's family is so vast. Apparently, we may feel that some of us are part of the family, but Swami's extension of family is way beyond, which some of us don't even know. And the inspiration that come from these people, they हमारे तरफ से भगवान के चरणी अर्पण, literally one of them in Hindi said this, and one of them said, this is for our side to Sai Baba. I think, as you said, this experience about the recent few months, the entire civil work, just clicked my mind and said, oh wow, this is something which is, means Bhagwan has very beautiful ways to work. And in fact, to sum up this, Swami can be seen in the activities. If all of us wants to see Bhagwan today, he's visible in his activities, and we just have to take it forward. As Brother Vijay said, just take that step, be simple, uncomplicated, and go with it, and you will see Bhagwan's presence everywhere. I think phenomenal, this session has been. Uncle, you want to have any last word before we take up a couple of questions which are just coming up?
So I will only tell the youngsters in the Sai mission, okay, make it a point at least 4 hours in a week doing Sai Seva. Because I'm sure if Sai youth get involved in the Seva in the city of Mumbai, the Sai mission will spread. Every house will remember the Sai. That's the only thing I like to come say.
Absolutely brilliant. I think that sums up the entire thing. And no doubt, I think I go back to that Swami statement that he calls you Santanam. I think Santanam is Bhagwan's family. And all of you belong to Bhagwan and nobody else. And this is an inspiration all of us carry, and we want to be part of that Sai family, in where Bhagwan is the head of the family and takes care of all of us. So heartfelt gratitude to both of you for taking time out and sharing this beautiful nuggets, small pieces of different elements of Bhagwan's, facets of Bhagwan's grace on the family. And this is a big inspiration that we will carry home. And before we close, there are a couple of questions if you can help us with. There's one question which is asked on the chat panel is, does Swami ever looked at punctuality and presentation of ourselves while studying at Swami's fold? I think this is specifically addressed to Brother Vijay. Punctuality.
Both. I think I should have mentioned that punctuality, yes, there's no doubt about that. And if visual presentation, I think if anybody wants an answer to that, you should just go back to any video, any photo, see Swami himself, see his robe, see his hair. Swami was super meticulous on how your hair was, whether your clothes were ironed. So in terms of presentation, in terms of how you speak, how you walk, how you serve food, how you eat, very meticulous about that. No doubts about that.
Yeah, I think he was very particular about how we present. And I think, we used to always tell boys that you should be well groomed, clean shaven, and, be very presentable. So that was something which it was very close to Bhagwan's heart. There's one more question which is addressed to Santanam uncle, and this is about Seva. So question is, uncle, please guide how to overcome roadblocks when there is a will to do Seva, but maybe you have been tested by Swami. Maybe if you share a personal experience where you went through something like this. Seva during testing period.
There is nothing called testing period. It won't bring Swami Seva. Let us be very clear on that. As we said, let's take Shanti. Okay. The big roadblock was there. We never gave up and we never thought we will not be able to do it. Okay. When we decided that we will restart the work on the 2nd of May, we never bothered about that. I went to the police, I went to the BMC, they have their own negative statement to give, but we never gave up. As long as we have a faith in Bhagwan and you are sincere and committed to do the work, he will guide us, he will ensure that we achieve the goal. I don't think we should have any doubt. There is nothing called roadblock, it is only our mental setup.
Absolutely, great. One more question, I think again this is to Santanam uncle, and maybe even Vijay you can chip in with, is how to be in constant touch with Swami, especially now when we don't have physical form.
My simple answer to that question, even when it was physical form, unless you and I were staying in Padati, you wouldn't see him physically. So, because today physically is not there in the body, that should not be a question mark in our mind at all. I think all of us in our prayer, in our life would have experienced him in some shape and form. Each one will have something unique to himself or to herself on how they feel Swami's presence. It's a very personal experience, but I genuinely don't believe that the physical presence, yes, the physical presence was very enjoyable. We all looked forward to it. For a minute, I'm not saying, personally, I enjoyed it the most, but that doesn't mean that if physically is not there, that it should become difficult for us. I think the best way to do it is you enjoy all those moments, keep thinking about it, and your life gets much more better. Yeah?
Absolutely. I think even participating in this kind of satsang where we listen to Bhagwan's stories or reading Bhagwan's books also is a good opportunity where we can, being far away, as Vijay said, that we are no longer, those days also we couldn't see Swami unless we're in Parthi, and even today where we are, we can listen to this kind of satsangs and videos and books and be in touch with Bhagwan. So excellent. I think before we close, I think we are very privileged to have our All India President, Shri Nimesh Pandey, also on the call. Nimesh uncle, you would like to share a few thoughts? It's especially when Dharmakshetra has come to our home today, if I may say though.
Yes, I think it's a privilege to be commenting on this interview which you're having today, because this is so personally to my knowledge and my personal experience. One of the main reasons that the Satsai organization was started was for people to self-transform themselves. And I must confess today that Brother Santhanam, who's much elder to me in age, but I've seen him and known him for many years, is a classic example of what transformation man can achieve at the Divine Lotus feet. Having known him way back in the 80s and 90s at the head honcho, a man with a complete corporate structure and a corporate attitude. And today what I see him as I talk to you today is an amazing example of what we all should be and how we should be laboring to transform. Apart from everything that he does so beautifully, but the fact that the transformation that I see in this human being is an inspiration for me personally also. That if God's grace and blessings fall upon man, and if man is sincere in his devotion to Bhagwan and his teachings, you can blossom into a great personality. And that's what, to me, Brother Santhanam is. Great credit to him for having done what he has done in the last few months against the odds of all COVID that we see. The sense of determination has just brought out his intense love and devotion for Bhagwan. So for me, he is my beautiful present, and Vijay is my beautiful future. And for me, I am a very happy man as one of the trustees along with him, that the roadmap for the future is well laid down. And that's all I want to say, because today we are not worried what will happen to Dharmakshetra in the next decade. We have a young man ready to take charge, and his antecedents and his pedigree is so strong, thanks to his father, that we are all very happy. God bless both Vijay and Santhanam, and may Swami continue to shower great health on Santhanam to continue to do what he is doing. And to Vijay, he has promised me that he will be there in the future for all times to come. So that this divine Santanam family, as you say, will continue to take care of the Dharmakshetra for many, many years to come. Jai Sai Ram. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Nimish Uncle, for sharing those wonderful thoughts, inspiring thoughts. In fact, as we close, let's offer a gratitude to our beloved Bhagwan for blessing us with this opportunity to listen to his own family members. The Santanam family is Bhagwan's family, and giving us this wonderful inspiration to do Seva and be participate in Bhagwan's mission very actively. So thanks, heartfelt gratitude to beloved Bhagwan, and thanks to both Santanam Uncle and Vijay for taking this time out and sharing your thoughts and experiences with us. With this, let's close the session today with Samasta Loka.
Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय। साई राम।